Good evening. It is Westerfield Tolbert. This is a Mind of Valor. Happy Mother's Day. Welcome to this stream. I am thrilled to be with you this evening. It's the weekend. It has been an interesting day. That's why I'm coming at you late once again. But nonetheless, I thought it was a great day. Um, Back to the program at hand. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this is a Mind of Valor, and I have tasked myself with going live once a day for at least 30 days, tackling a variety of subject matters, primarily based around the platform that I've created called A Mind of Valor, and our theme of asking better questions. So in previous days, I've spoken about love and our language and vices, reciprocity, our orientation. Today, I'm interested in talking through attitude. Attitude. Just let me give you a little bit about a couple things that happened during the course of the day. Earlier today, I performed a mediation for a family who was going through a bit of a tiff. Everything seemed to work itself out during the course of the conversation, but something that I was left with at the end of it was our attitude, I wanted to talk about attitude and just really the spirit we bring to different experiences and how that can play out and how that can manifest in behaviors and just how we interact with one another. I like to think that the best possible way to get the outcome you are seeking is to come to experiences, especially ones that are foreign to you, with an open heart, a positive attitude, an attitude of understanding, compassion, a willingness to listen and to learn. And attitude, generally speaking, is one of those things where we take our attitudes into every experience that we face, regardless of whether we believe so or not. We carry that with us. And because of that, we have to be, I like the sound when the microphone is a little bit more directed. And so because of that, we have to be mindful of what our attitudes are and when we are engaging in spirits, because our attitude will have an immediate effect on the people around us. And so in this particular mediation, I won't go too much into the particulars about that particular experience, but what I recognized instantly was that the attitude that every individual was bringing to the conversation was going to directly impact the outcome. So generally, I laid out the ground rules about respect and how we would communicate and what type of expressions to use, how we want to engage this space so that it remains a safe space. I'll let everyone know that if at any point you no longer feel like this is a safe space and you need to withdraw from the conversation, you are allowed to do that. There's certain ground rules that I put in place. But generally, even outside of a mediation setting, I think about attitude as just that energy that follows us. And it's what we bring to every encounter that we have. Our attitude will affect how we communicate with others, how we interpret other people communicating with us, what we see or what we hear in an argument or a conversation. If you have the wrong attitude when you engage in a conversation, you will only hear what you want to hear that validates your own point and your own perspective. And then it's a conversation that's not really going anywhere. When you bring an attitude of open-mindedness, there's more of a chance that there can be some type of mutual understanding reached because you're willing to put your personal feelings to the side for that particular moment. And I'm not saying to silence yourself or your or what your emotions are telling you in a particular situation, but be aware that sometimes we bring attitudes to experiences that if we stop and asked ourselves where this came from or what was the catalyst for this, we would be like, whoa, I need to check myself at the door. And so with asking better questions, once again, it is taking the time to ask yourself what you're feeling, why you're feeling certain things, how you came to feel those certain things. And if that feeling is truly authentic, is it healthy? How much of it has been influenced by persons outside of yourselves? How much of it has been influenced by trauma? How are you addressing when you're asking yourself these questions, how am I addressing this trauma or these triggers? One of the things I highlighted for the members of that mediation, I told them, just be mindful, be very aware as we're going through and we are replaying these scenarios and you're telling your sides of the story, that there's a very high chance, very high probability, guaranteed almost, that when you begin to retell the story or explain what happened, what will happen is in that moment, you'll be re-triggered. It'll be as if you're living that experience all over again. So your heart might start to race. You'll feel your breath changing. You'll feel maybe the dampness on your skin. You might feel goosebumps. Your hair might raise up, but you're almost literally reliving that experience all over again. So um, that journey that you were on when you first initially came across that set of emotions never really never really landed anywhere. They're just swimming around in your mind and your heart and your body. And so that attitude becomes something that is weighty and really difficult to recognize. And so when we are asking ourselves better questions, is asking, when we have these moments, who am I in this right now? Why am I engaging in the way that I am? And what can I do about that? If you are able to recognize your switches or your triggers, then you are more able to make a conscious decision to switch those behaviors or change, grow through, mature through. But you have to be willing to ask yourself those type of questions about why you are feeling certain things or why something that otherwise wouldn't have taken you from 0 to 100 took you to from 0 to 100. What about this particular person? What about this particular time? What was said was enough to ignite the flame, right? Or enough to cause an emotional reaction. And it's really the attitude that we bring to that experience, an attitude of open-mindedness would have a very different outcome than a closed attitude, or where you're not willing to hear or listen, or you're only listening to respond or hear things that validate your particular point or your particular perspective. I think about the opportunity with recognizing what about our attitude, or what about our projections of our attitude. Um, the opportunity comes in recognizing that, okay, I have a deficit in a particular area that I need to strengthen. And it may be representative of many other things that may be showing up in different areas of your life, but you're not aware of it in every area because you don't have the experience of having that type of an output in those other areas. So you don't necessarily see what's coming back to you, or you don't see the product of the way you're engaging the world. And so you're only changing in certain spheres and leaving others unattended to. And those unattended attitudes, those unattended experiences where attitudes boil to the surface, are often the ones that can have the most damaging effect to our relationships and have the most impact if we choose to take that opportunity or that vein of consciousness and say, you know what, this is not going to be something after you reconcile with yourself. This is not going to be something that will be a deficit to me any longer. I am going to make a move towards something different. I'm going to pivot in my attitude. Asking these questions about how your attitude impacts your work is something that is valuable if you choose to bring it to that safe space and that community that I've been talking about, and asking those around you, hey, how do I show up in spaces? How does my attitude either present an opportunity for me or a challenge to the progress of our said mission, project, our vision, or just in general deliverable? And then once you are starting to peel apart or pull back the layers of how your attitude affects your work in these different spaces, you have that option, you have that choice that either you're going to continue down this particular path or you're going to make a move and go down a different street, right? And attitude or asking these questions is just setting you up to be successful, because the attitudes that we carry with us every single day are just like our mental models or the frames that we choose to engage this lived experience through. They will be a veil and cloud your judgment. It'll be foggy. And if you remove those things and you lift that veil, you'll be able to see things more clearly. You will be able to see past your anger, your insecurities, and the traumas that are connected to all of those things. So, with attitude, it is something that is well within your reach and within your control, in that you can turn from a challenge to a blessing. But you really have to be willing to move in that direction. You have to be willing to see something that is upsetting you and want to get to the root of it, you know, to understand for yourself, if nobody else, why I am feeling this way and what has brought me to this point. You know, what collect of my collective experiences, which ones are the events that for me pose the greatest challenge to me engaging the world and from a level-headed place, and learning about ourselves and learning about our attitudes will help us to identify places in our lives where we can find reciprocity. It will help us to better understand how our language that we use not only affects us and the people we have around us. Like language, our attitude is an internal conversation that we are either playing on repeat and we're loving the song, or we're playing on repeat and we're hating the song, but we just keep playing it on repeat. Our attitudes will help us to acknowledge what our vices are in real time, in real life, and of those vices which are triggered because of attitudes that we are holding on to that are unhealthy, and which traumas are most impacted by the attitude that we live with every single day that causes things to keep bubbling up to the surface. And to really think through, how can we have a vision towards prosperity and success if our attitude is one that is not um, in line with that, is not congruent with that vision for our lives? We can't both be peacemakers and have confrontation living between our ears. It is not congruent. It does not line up. It is not a match. It is not a healthy recipe for success. Our attitudes will either make or break us, and our power comes in knowing our strength and knowing that I can take control of my attitude and change the way I engage the world. I don't want to gloss over the fact that there are people and experiences that all my life I've been in situations where I have people who use expressions, well, I just have a bad attitude, or this person or this kid just has a bad attitude. And like, what is that? What does that even mean? How does one come to the place of having a bad attitude? And then learning that it is different spaces. There people bring different sides of themselves to different spaces. So this particular individual, for example, may have a bad attitude in the particular space, but that same attitude in another setting might be a survival mechanism, a survival tactic. That's where their way of sustaining their livelihood, their emotional health, and they may not be fully aware that that is something that is a walk following them. They haven't fully got to that point yet, because someone will just label them as a person with a bad attitude without first trying to understand what is the foundation for that. How do they come to that position? And then us not being so high and mighty that we're quick to point the finger at other people without also thinking about, dang, what attitudes do I carry? What attitudes do I hold on to that affect my relationships, healthy otherwise, that I haven't checked yet? So these are some things to think through, things to carry in our back pockets as we move through life. I just think that, and I also, when I say I think, this is really things that I think I can, at some other future time, I'll bring on speakers who can speak to these unique topics from different areas of psychology and social work and different healthcare professionals, to talk about how our attitudes really affect our physiology. But in terms of this space, I just want us to be aware that we have the power to change our attitudes, and we also have the power to not allow things to trigger us that once triggered us. Those opportunities lie in asking ourselves the challenging questions and asking our communities to hold us accountable to those answers and to that height that we hope to climb to. We cannot get to our destination or the success ultimately by ourselves. We can hope, we try, but it takes community. It takes more than one person to build a nation, a company, a family. Therefore, we have to just be aware of attitudes that we bring to all those settings and all those relationships, and be aware of our internal attitudes and ideas about life, relationships, our traumas, and how the internal environment that we maintain will affect our external environment. So think about your attitude. Don't just cast somebody away and label them as having a bad attitude. Try to your best to understand, more so than being understood in those situations, and be that candle, be that light for someone who is struggling, so that they can know that it's possible. It's possible and it's real to start off in one position, but then grow and mature into something else. Your attitude will ultimately determine your belief system and your aptitude. And your attitude is yours to control. It is yours for the taking. And I think that we will see value, we will see a blessing once we realize that we have the power to change our attitudes. I'll bring up this topic in the future because I'll tie it back into aptitude when we get to aptitude and awareness and attention, because I just think that it comes up more often than not, but we just don't often tie the ideas together in the way that I hope to do so. So with that, I will round up and conclude this day 12. Happy Mother's Day. I thank you all for joining me on this 30-day journey. I am I'm happy. I'm happy with the way things are turning out. I'm happy with the feedback that I've been receiving from different people. And also, I am just overjoyed with the commitment and consistency that I've been able to display. And I just will do my best to continue this journey and with you as I continue this internal journey, because it's bigger. It's way bigger to the vision. This is just a beginning. So thank you for knowing me in the beginning, and I hope to know you later on as well, and to continue building community. Take that attitude that you have and check it. Become aware of it. Journal so you can understand it. Seek trusted relationships to highlight things to you that you're not always aware of. Watch out for your blind spots and those attitudes that hide in those places. And feel secure in knowing that it's okay to be insecure, but don't let it cripple you. And there's potential for those things to become strengths if you allow them to, if you have the attitude that you are capable of changing, you are capable of growing and maturing and being more than you are today. As long as you are of the belief that you can be more tomorrow than you are today, more in the next hour than you are today, then growth is not too far away. So thank you. And I will see you on day 13. Have the best attitude possible.